Hello, everyone. Hello, YouTubers. This is Anonymous Tea. Hello to all the Anonymous Tea sippers. Hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Today, I am reacting to last night's live with Dr. Heavenly and Melody Holt from Love and Marriage Huntsville. And there was so much in there, a lot to get into. Apparently, for starters, Dr. Heavenly had stated that a lot of people were requesting for her to talk to Melody after these explosive reunion episodes to just kind of get her perspective on things and kind of see where things were currently stand and any other things she wanted to reveal that she has going on. And so then Heavenly, of course, promoted her previous interviews for people who weren't familiar, that she had previously interviewed Mel and also had talked to Martell as well on her channel. And she wanted to be as authentic and everything else. However, Dr. Heavenly didn't watch all of the reunion episodes. So part of it was she, kind of gathered some things from what she watched in the first episode of the reunion. However, a lot of the other questions, thank goodness, came from some of the other fans to speak to that. However, I found that odd but maybe, I know she's probably busy and probably just didn't have time. Maybe that's why. So for some reason, she keeps pushing throughout this interview that she thinks that Martell and Mel are going to get back together. And I don't know why she's doing it. And it got to the point where the fans kept calling her out at different points throughout the interview and the chat. And she kept trying to reiterate and restate it and say, oh, I'm not trying to get them, to get back together, but I see how much they still love each other. And she said, and I'm clarifying that I said that I can see them getting back together in the future in a couple of years from now. And I just don't understand why Heavenly is even putting that out into the universe. So then at that point, Heavenly was like, well, I'm real. I'm going to ask Melody Holt to her face or whatever, because it was like a few minutes before Melody was able to join. And then, she jumps right in and asks Mel this question, if she thinks there's any possibility that her and Martell would ever get back together. And Mel literally said she would die alone before getting back with Martell. And she said she's not trying to say that to spook people or to wish death on anybody or to manifest something like that. But she said everything that she's been through in terms of Martell's lack of character, in terms of Martell's lack of integrity, in terms of how disrespectful Martell has been towards her. Why would she want to be with somebody like that? And so, then Heavenly again tried to back up what she's saying about this crazy conspiracy theory that she, thinks, well, what about 2 years down the line, about a possible reconciliation, and that, she still sees how much that Martell still loves Melody and everything else. And, again, Melody is, not backing down and saying, she's the one that walked away. She's the one that she would rather be by herself for the rest of her life than to go back to Martell and deal with that whole situation again. And she said she can't be in a situation where she's waiting once again for somebody to change. She already went through that with all of the years that she put in, hoping that Martell would stop the cheating and stop the disrespect. And she said at the end of the day, her zodiac sign is a Scorpio, and she's going to enjoy herself and she's going to do her. And even if that means being by herself, then so be it. And so, people in the comments were telling Heavenly to watch the season back, because if you really watched all the episodes and saw how much gaslighting Martell was doing towards Melody, if you saw how disrespectful Martell was and just how out of pocket he was, and just how comfortable he was embracing this villain role, embracing his narcissism, Heavenly would not be trying to reiterate this every few minutes in the interview. And so then Dr. Heavenly also calls out Melody because she said the last time that they did their previous interview that Mel had left out that when she did leave, because she had asked her specifically if she ever had sex, within, while still being legally married to Martell. And she had told Heavenly no in the previous interview. However, Heavenly didn't know that Melody had received oral sex, that didn't come up the last time that they had spoke. And so Mel basically said that she's not one to divulge everything that goes on in her bedroom, everything that goes on with her sexually, and this and that. And so essentially when that took place, when that quote unquote, and I'm going to be like Braxton Family Values, when the oral transaction took place, that was back in 2017, 2018, when Melody had thought she was done with Martell that time, and she had got her own apartment. And so at that point, she was seeing somebody, and, that was when the oral transaction took place. But then, of course, she ended up going back to Martell or whatever. And then at that point, once they got back together, all of that other stuff, had dissipated. And so again, like, I'm going to keep mentioning this because this is what kept happening throughout the interview. So they called out Heavenly again, basically saying in the comments, Heavenly, you're promoting, Melody to go back to a toxic man. And so, basically Heavenly again is trying to double down. And she said she's not trying to promote toxicity. And then Heavenly said that she doesn't know how she would react if Dr. Damon cheated. And I just find that a little bit peculiar because remember when Mariah threatened that she had receipts that Damon was cheating, but ended up not revealing them on the show because she didn't want to hurt the children and hurt the family and all this and that. And it just made me wonder, because we never really got resolve on that rumor. So I was thinking to myself, okay, did Damon really cheat? And Heavenly has just made it a point to make sure that never got on the show, and that she's just going to, that's her man and she's standing by him no matter what. Or if she really doesn't know how she's going to move with Dr. Damon, because I remember distinctly that whole stripper situation and how Damon was moving and everything else with the guys. Like, it was just a hot mess express. So I don't know how to read Heavenly on that particular comment, because truth be told, it's still up in the air on whether or not Dr. Damon even cheated for me to even properly assess if Heavenly is just saying that just to say that, to keep that narrative going, or if she really is staying with the cheater herself. And that's why maybe she's pushing so hard for Mel and Martell to get back together, to have that image of a quote unquote power couple, even though it's completely toxic and completely, out of bounds for how he's moving. So then, Heavenly was asking, has there been any prospects? Has there been anybody in Melody's DMs? Has there anybody that's been reaching out to her or interested in dating her? And so, Melody basically said that her DMs are on and popping. However, she is not checking for anybody in particular yet. She's just trying to do her. She's trying to do the solo thing and this and that. And she's not really trying to feature anybody for right now. Then Heavenly asked, kind of the same question that Carlos King asked on the reunion. And that was, if it wasn't for the show, would they still be together? Would Melody and Martell still be together if it wasn't for the show? And, Mel basically said before the show and during the show and even now, there's still people past and present who are still trying to encourage her and, say that you guys should get it together. You guys are a family. You have all these kids and your kids may resent you later in life, and just really trying to push the family unit, even though we've seen as the viewers how toxic and how crazy Martell is, and everything that Martell really got away with, so many things, and he had been out of pocket well before Melody left for good. And, I just can't believe that's still happening. And so essentially what Mel said was, hey, she gave him all of the mercy and grace all these years that he cheated. She was hoping with the platform and everything else of the show and the image and everything else, that Martell would stop, that he would stop cheating so they could get back to how they were. However, that never happened. He actually got worse. And it actually, got to a point where it was like she had to go, which I totally see. And so, Mel said also that when it gets to a point where somebody, is hindering her, when her, grace is being affected and she's being hindered from her purpose, that's when she knows. And the person that she tells that to says that they know that they're hindering her purpose. She knew at that point that was her out. That was her out to go. And then Heavenly asked, does respectful cheating make a difference? And everything else in terms of whether or not Melody would have stayed. And, Mel said at the end of the day, every female is different in terms of what they will and will not go with. However, in the case of her, there had been so much disrespect, and it had taken place for so many years that at that point, there was just no point of any return. As far as she was concerned, there was nothing further that could happen at this point in time that would convince her to take back Martell. And so then it was funny because also, Mel was, relaying how people, try to say, oh, you need to talk to older women and this and that and, get their perspective. And that's like stuff that Martell was trying to say, how they stay with cheating husbands for years and this and that. But here's the thing, depending on how old certain people are, there was a time where women didn't have the same rights in jobs and education and so forth, that a lot of them were stay-at-home moms. A lot of them didn't have the income or the resources to leave, where the husband was the only person that was working. Now we're in a situation where things have, definitely leveled out for females. We still have a long way to go as far as I'm concerned, but there is a lot of opportunity for females to now have a plan in place, have things set up for themselves to where they can be okay financially with or without a husband, as well as with or without children. They're going to find a way, because at some point, and it's going to depend on the female, there's only so much somebody's going to put up with. There's some females who, the first time somebody cheats, they're out. It's a deal breaker. They're done. Then there's some females who, may stick around for a couple times after somebody cheats, but then if they cheat again, they're out. And then there's just some who never leave, no matter what happens. And so every individual situation is different. For me, it's like a deal breaker. It's a no. It's a no for me. Like Randy Jackson says, it's a no for me. There's no, because here's the thing. Here's my thoughts on that. If somebody cheats once and you take them back, I feel like subconsciously you're basically telling them, hey, you can cheat again, just cheat smarter, or just, cheat a different way this time. So that way I'm not humiliated, or it doesn't get out publicly to where, I still have to have you around my family, my friends and everything else. And it's embarrassing. And that's really what happens, is people try to find a smarter way to cheat. But the problem is when you're a habitual cheater, it still gets out. And, that's the part that sucks. I mean, look what's going on with Khloe Kardashian and Tristan Thompson, is she keeps writing for this guy who doesn't respect her, but he's not going to be the one to dump her because he knows he's gotten away with so much, and now has had a baby on her too, and is like having sex with women on, their birthdays and anniversaries and holidays and everything else. And, she still will not publicly break up with this guy. So, that's the whole thing for me. It's like, you can't be in a situation where you still stick around in a relationship or a marriage and all of that's going on with your significant other. It's just too much disrespect. It's too humiliating. The trust is gone. The trust is broken, even if there are kids involved. I'm sorry. If you have your own money, if you have your own means, if you have the family or the friends or the resources to make that move, then simply do it. But again, everybody is different. And so, Melody then was going back because she, when Martell told her to talk to older women and to put up with it, and, Mel was asking him, okay, well, why haven't you talked to older men? And so she's like, I'm not doing anything. You're the one that's doing the cheating. What is older women going to do for me, especially if they're telling me that I need to stay with the cheater? And so Martell basically was saying, the older men that he spoke to essentially told him not to cheat with somebody that has anything to lose, to make them sign a contract or an NDA or a gag order or something. And basically, Mel felt, and I feel the same way, that these older men are basically giving the advice to Martell, oh, you just need to cheat better. You need to cheat smarter. You need to cheat a different way. So that way you're not disrespecting or humiliating your wife in public, but still cheat, but just make sure you're messing with people who, have as much to lose as you. And clearly, even with Martell still cheating, he did not take that advice because he decided to cheat with the worst of the worst, with somebody who has nothing to lose and who has nothing going for themselves, who dropped out of nursing school, who has no job, who has no income, and allegedly is still getting financed by others, to live a certain life that she lives. So therefore, that is why this has been such a hot ghetto mess and has been so ratchet, because Martell not only cheated, but chose to cheat with somebody who is just as trifling and has nothing to lose and doesn't care who she airs out, doesn't care who she takes down with her. And that is where we are. That's why things have just gotten so disgusting, have gotten so toxic, have gotten so deplorable, because of how messy this side chick is. Because she just has no regard for anybody. And now she's going after everybody else's marriage. And she's still trying to antagonize Mel. And Mel has been divorced Martell. So it's like, it's never ending. The drama still hasn't stopped, even though Mel filed for divorce. It is still chaos. So, and that's what, essentially Mel said, like, she just keeps praying that Martell one day will grow up, that he will do better, that he will be a better man, he'll be a better father for the kids, not for her, but, for himself, because it's just exhausting everything that she's still having to go with present day in 2021. And so, then Dr. Heavenly asked if Mel knew about, the side chick being pregnant, if that was the catalyst for Mel leaving for good. And so Mel essentially said, after, the last daughter, Melanie, she didn't know at first that Martell was even still cheating, because she said, her final date where she moved out was April 4th. But she said the day before they were still doing family TikToks. She was, going back to how in January and February, they were filming the baby special. So again, Mel thought, for good that things were actually back on track, that, this was it, that Martell was done cheating. You have the new baby, you're, in that, phase of, being excited for the new child again and everything else. And so then you also had another apology on camera, but then it was after Melody left that she found out about the side chick being pregnant. And so then, after that, Dr. Heavenly asks Mel, about her first single, Telltale Signs, and if it was disrespectful, if she felt it was disrespectful to Martell or, this and that. And so Mel is like, is it disrespectful? She's like, well, don't say or do anything disrespectful to me, and you won't have to have certain lyrics in that song airing you out like that. And so then she had also reiterated, everybody hits her up, the song's about Martell. And she's like, well, yeah, it's about Martell. He did all this. But she said, it is also for any woman who has been through this, any woman who has dealt with somebody who has, cheated on them and everything else, that this goes out to those women, whether they had been cheated on in a marriage or a relationship or whatever, that, a lot of females can relate to this. A lot of females have been in her DMs, saying that her song gave them the courage to divorce their husbands or to leave their significant others who were cheaters and this and that. And so then, Mel also took that opportunity to promote her new song, Side Chick Award, that just, recently came out a couple days ago. midnight the day of the final reunion on Saturday. And so, she said her new, and was promoting the new song, and basically said that the new song, the side chick award song, is about how the side chick comes into people's marriages and relationships, essentially. And, that was the premise of the new song. And so, Mel, of course, said, you want to handle the marriage that you want to, the way you need to handle it or whatever, that everybody's situation, of course, is different. So then Heavenly asked if Melody has ever been abused by Martell, because there's been a lot of questions about that, with just how volatile and just with how inappropriate and disgusting Martell has been to Mel. Heavenly wanted to know whether or not, that was the case, if he was ever abusive. And so essentially, Mel said she's not taking abuse. She said that she's a strong woman. She's a Scorpio, this and that, to take of that of what you will. And so Heavenly said basically she's reading between the lines, that if you need to slap somebody, if you need to hold your own in a situation that potentially can get volatile, then so be it. And so Mel said, you said it, not me. And so then Heavenly brought up again that her mother, who's 89 years old, said that all men cheat, and she wanted to know if Melody agreed with that. And so I'm wondering again, because again, my ears perked up when I saw and heard this, and I'm like, Heavenly, are you dropping hints about Dr. Damon? Is this why you have this philosophy that certain people, it's okay for them to stay with the cheater, because you have people who were raising you and had it instilled in you that all men cheat no matter what, which is not a true statement, because if you have somebody who is true in their faith, who is true in their respect and their love and their devotion for you, it's not even a question about faithfulness. So I don't know why some of these women are putting that out into the universe, that all men cheat, because that's not true. That is not true at all. But essentially, Mel is again reiterating that different women go through different things. Some women accept cheating. Some women immediately divorce men. Kind of like what I had said previously, that everybody's situation is different. Mel essentially was saying, not to let anybody influence anything. And, Mel said, when you get to a point where you assess your self-love, your self-worth, your self-esteem, and you don't want to take that abuse anymore, you don't want to go through that roller coaster anymore, when you get that strength to go, you go. So then Heavenly asked whether or not Melody is acting on the new show Kings of Napa. And, Mel basically said no, that her and Carlos were basically just hosting an introduction special for the show. And she said that, she likes the fact that, she can get into and dibble and dabble into hosting and acting every once and again. She's like, reality TV is an avenue, is a platform, but she really prefers to do acting and hosting and everything else. And so then Heavenly switches gears and talks about Kimmy, and says essentially that she really likes Kimmy, and she hates that they keep referring to Kimmy as the side chick. And, essentially when somebody files it for divorce, paperwork can eventually take up to several months and years before things are finalized. And so, Melody, of course, agreed. And, from my perspective, I think the issue is we don't know the truth from Maurice's perspective, because again, the ex-wife has kind of indicated that Maurice was still sleeping with her even while they were going through the divorce, and even while he allegedly had moved on to Kimmy. So that's why we don't know officially what the truth is on that. And different people keep coming on the show and trying to imply or infer or outright say otherwise, that Kimmy is a side chick. But again, I don't know if we'll ever get the full story on that. Because remember previously, one of Reese's relatives even basically, alluded to that and did that messy Instagram live a while back. That was crazy, basically applying the same thing, that Kimmy was a side chick. So, Heavenly was trying to ask Melody what her relationship is with Kimmy, that she likes Kimmy because she thinks she would get along well with her because she seems really authentic and a sweet person and this and that. And so Mel said, even though she is, busy, of course, with 4 kids and things that she has going on in business and otherwise, that, Kimmy still texts her every now and then to check on her, and that they have known each other since 2014. And before the show began filming, they bumped heads a lot. But it was because they both have strong personalities. They both like to voice their opinion and they don't like to back down from their stance. But she said after they bump the heads, then after that, they're good. They have, a good rapport. And she also said, that Kimmy has a huge heart. And so then, Heavenly then starts throwing shade at Tisha and is asking, okay, is Tisha weak? She comes across as being weak in her marriage and just being weak overall. Like, how is Tisha? And so essentially, Melody, was very respectful. She did not, shade her castmates or anything like that. And she said, listen, we have all been friends since 2014, which was, well before the show happened. And she said she has had ups and downs with Tisha. And Melody says, from her perspective, she just tries to encourage Tisha. She just tries to encourage and help Tisha any way that she can to get out there, to help her make some moves and things of that nature. And so then Dr. Heavenly then goes in on Marcel and saying how Marceau is starting to look good to her, starting to be more confident and this and that, and growing in his business and all of that. So, then the abuse thing came up again, and, Melody again was just strongly like, listen, she's not one to sit around to be abused and would never stay in a situation like that. So then Dr. Heavenly asks about the side chick Coleslaw, and Heavenly refers to as Coleslaw because she's friends with Funky Dineva, of course, and she wanted to, get some questions in about Coleslaw. And she wanted to know if there was ever a scenario where Melody and Coleslaw would get the kids together to have Christmas dinner. And Melody said, for what? Mel basically said, this is a new baby with her ex-husband over there. That has nothing to do with her. And it was funny because Heavenly was referring to the child as a she, as to the new baby Knox as a she. And I was like, it's a son. Didn't you see the Chippendale photo? I was like, oh my gosh, Heavenly. I'm like, girl, you need to prepare for this interview because some of these questions, it was just hilarious because I'm like, there isn't an additional sister. There's a new brother. Like, what is going on? So anyways, Mel basically said that Martell is the father. He's the one that's responsible for, the last child that he had. And, Mel basically was saying that they don't even have Christmas or Thanksgiving with Martell, and that Martell has been the one trying to beg Melody to have Thanksgiving, to have Christmas together and this and that. And, she said basically the issue is Martell didn't think that Mel would leave him. And he's told that to Mel before, to her face directly, that he never thought that she would actually leave because of the fact that she had taken him back so many times. And so, Mel basically said you have to look back and evaluate. And, there were times she was naive because she said people, she thought all of those years that he would eventually stop, and he just never did. So she left for good because it just never ended. So then Dr. Heavenly asked about the Steve Harvey appearance and how Martell did an apology on that, and what Mel felt about that apology and what she thought, if she thought it was genuine. And so Mel basically said that she did not watch the special, that people were DMing her about the special. However, she did not see it. And she essentially said that somebody like Martell, they're very good at lying. They're very manipulative. They are good at making you believe that what they're saying that is true. And she said that, before in the past, she used to fall for it. She used to think that Martell was being genuine in these apologies, but then he would go out and do something completely inappropriate and disrespectful that would completely take away from, the apology, and was opposite of what the apology was for. And so, she basically said she's given, like I said again, she's given this marriage as many years, as many chances as she could. Martell's doing his thing over there and she's trying to do her. And so, then Heavenly kind of reiterates back that people like Martell, they're just so narcissistic and they're so arrogant. And that was arrogant for him to even say that out loud, that he was shocked that she actually left him. And, Melody told him early on with this show, she said, we are all given a platform and an opportunity to show ourselves as human beings on this reality show. And she said, also, we're going to fail and we're going to make mistakes, and also get your, SHIT together. However, with the spotlight being as huge as it is on Oprah's network, on this national platform, she was surprised at the direction that Martell decided to take with this villainous role, with how disrespectful he was, with how brazen and sloppy he was with his cheating. And so essentially Mel said, you made this bed, you got to lie in it. And so, then Dr. Heavenly asked Mel what she felt about Martell asking or saying to Mel that, she would be nothing without him, that he felt he built the foundation and this and that. And Mel basically said the only thing that Martell gave me was last name, and that's that in terms of, business. She's like, everything else, she's the person behind all of the business ventures. And Dr. Heavenly also asked if Mel felt bad that Martell was in financial distress after they broke up. And so Mel said, no. Essentially, she said for her at that point in time when she left, she was listening to God. She had to let it go and, step in the message of what God was trying to say. And she said that she easily could have said a lot more. There's a lot that she is held back because she doesn't want to completely tear down Martell. But she said for her, the focus is on herself and her children, because she said if people knew what was really going on and how bad things are, that people would really, be done with Martell. Because she said, Martell has a way of manipulating situations to make it seem as though it's something else than what it is. And so she was just over it. And so Mel said, as far as the finances go, she said she didn't feel bad for Martell being, having some financial problems. She said she, as the mother, as a single mom now, has to step in, has to make sure, things for herself and things for her kids are good. And so then, Heavenly said that she commended Mel, that it is hard on a national platform to step away from a marriage like this when you're like a public image, and kept complimenting Melody and saying how beautiful she was. And then she asked about Marceau and if there was anything ever that happened between Marceau and Melody. And so Melody basically was like, he hasn't come on to her. That people are probably referencing the graduation celebration episode, and that Marceau had bought a bottle of champagne that he wanted Mel to try and let him know what she thought. Mel, of course, reiterated that they have never been to each other's home, that, Melody typically has the personality, like when things are good, to be silly, and that she's a silly person really with anyone and everyone, and that her and Marceau also were close friends for years because all the couples knew each other at least since 2014. And so Melody said that there's somebody who's like very passionate about Marceau and Melody in her DMs that like thinks they're perfect for each other and that they're made for each other and that they should be together in a relationship because of the way Marceau looks at her and all this stuff. That sounds like some great fan fiction. I mean, as a fan, we do see how Marceau looks at Melody. It's obvious Marceau is very much attracted to Mel. Like, no matter what he says, he's definitely attracted to her. He's definitely feeling her. And Marceau likes the fact of how driven and successful Mel is in her own right and how she's a boss. So, and coupled that with her attraction, you know, she's a catch for everybody. So, I mean, who wouldn't be interested in Mel? So, but essentially Melody said, and I found this interesting. She said the reason that she would not go there with Marceau is because she knows Marceau's ex-wife and wants no parts. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what about your friendship with Tisha? Like, what is, like, or that up and down situation? Like, it's not even about Tisha. You know, it's because of the ex-wife that you just want no parts of him. So then Dr. Heavenly asked, did Melody regret doing this show? And so Melody says no. She said, although, you know, reality TV is kind of like a stepping stone for her, that the show has done so much for Melody career-wise. You know, she said she's not necessarily a reality TV person. However, there's been different things that she's had in motion before reality TV that has made the success of the show and the platform that the show is on easier for Melody to get into some other things. Because she said, like, for instance, before the show, she already had a team because she was already doing speaking engagements and things about building an empire. And with the success of the show, she was able to build some stronger team, get some stronger people. And then also regarding her speaking engagement, you know, before she was just doing a lot of things, certain things locally or having to travel herself to different things. But now she's getting flown out places to speak because of the success of the show. And then there were certain brand deals and things she wanted to do. But with the success of the show, she's even getting more opportunities and more brands that, you know, want to work with her and everything else. And so it's basically just opened the door for Mel to just walk quicker, move quicker, make more moves with the success of the show and having this platform. And that essentially everything is moving a lot faster than it would have without the show. And so then Heavenly basically said all publicity is good publicity, and like kind of went back to the, you know, the Martell, you know, it's not the woman today without him and this and that, and made it seem like, you know, it was Martell that pushed her out there and this and that. And so, you know, again, Mel was just rattling off her credentials and said, hey, she's been doing her since she was 5 years old. She was Melody Rogers before she was Melody Holt, and has been doing, you know, pageants, has been doing talent shows, has been doing, you know, has always been a leader, has been president of most of her organizations that she's been a part of, has been in the praise team, has been in the dance team, has, you know, played the keyboard for her church. And she said, you know, as a husband, he's supposed to be supportive, and as a wife, I was supportive of things that Martell wanted to do. And so then Heavenly asked Mel if she talked to Coleslaw. And so Melody said, for what? Like, she doesn't talk to her. She's like, they just had that one thing back in 2017 where, you know, Coleslaw was calling from a blocked number. And, you know, that was the first time that, you know, Melody was aware of the cheating. But she said, essentially, she hasn't talked to her in years, and that she's basically focused in on, you know, her business all over there. And so then, you know, regarding the Steve Harvey apology, Melody wanted to reiterate that there are things that Martell does for show because he wants to play you know, portray a certain victim act on social media. And so she said, like, when it's him apologizing, it doesn't mean a thing. And, you know, she had referenced the birthday post that Martell did for Milani, and even Heavenly was calling it out, saying that, you know, he gave Melody props or whatever. And so, you know, Melody said it's funny because she said on Instagram again, Martell has a way of making certain people think and believe that he's a victim, that he needs sympathy, that he needs empathy, and all this other stuff. But she said in real life, the 20th is when they do their, on Monday, they did their kids exchange, and Martell just made the exchange of the kids so difficult. He just tries to find ways to make things more difficult than what it needs to be to get a reaction out of Melody. And so it's just funny because what he presents to the people versus what is going on behind the scenes is like night and day. And she said it's even worse than what is even being portrayed on the show. And at that point, I was very concerned for Mel because I'm like, I don't want this situation to ever end up on Dateline or 2020 where things go too far because of a jealous ex-husband who is pissed that you finally, decided to leave them. I pray that this ends for Melody because this is just getting out of hand. Like at this point, Mel needs, her own security. Like literally in addition to having, security cameras, she needs her own personal security, like her own bodyguards and everything else, because this is insanity. This is insane. Like how long has Mel been gone now? How long has this divorce been final? And Martell is still, just up and at it with these shenanigans. And is he really going to be doing this much for, forever? It's just something has to give. Something truly has to give. And that's one reason I kind of wanted Mel to have somebody or have a boyfriend or whatever, because if she has somebody, who has, who can really regulate things and get Martell to pipe down, I'm for it. I am completely for it because he's not going to stop until he finds a woman on Melody's level. And that's the reality of it, because he's too obsessed with Melody to move on with his life, because the fact that he is taking time to plan and do all of these shenanigans and try to, not have her have a peaceful life is just somebody who is a wrecking ball and is just so upset you finally left and expected you to stay there and put up with their crap. And he is just trying to make her pay every single day for it, and it's insanity. And so, she says, again, there's things that she would put out there, but it would really knock him down a lot further than what is already being dragged for. But yeah, Heavenly then just kept reiterating that he's a textbook narcissist. And, then finally Heavenly asked, okay, what do you want in a man? Do you see yourself getting remarried? And where do you see yourself in 5 years? So essentially, Melody said that Heavenly threw her with the, remarried question. But she said getting remarried is not at the top of her list at all. She said the biggest thing is, therapy for both her and her children, that they're in. She's noticing, obviously, with what she had been through previously, that, she wants a man to have therapy for childhood trauma. And some type of therapist, some type of life coach, because she said she doesn't have the time to do the work for the man. The man needs to be doing the work for himself. She's trying to do her work as well. And so, loyalty is big, with her zodiac sign being a Scorpio. And she wants somebody who is a protector, who's a protector physically, emotionally, and protector of Melody's heart, because obviously she had an ex who still is not protecting her, even though she's the mother of 4 of his children. And then she also said that she's not big on appearance these days, because she said she just married somebody who was good looking and who was into fitness and working out and everything every day. And she still got, played and humiliated and treated like crap. But I will say, just because somebody may be facially challenged or physically challenged does not mean that they won't cheat on you or hurt you either. Just sidebar on that. That's not a guarantee. Just because somebody may not look like Martell or may not have the same physique as Martell, that they wouldn't do nothing low down either. Some people gain confidence because somebody that looks like Melody would give them a chance. And so as a result of that, they start to feel themselves, regardless of how they look, in the face or physically or whatever, and then use that confidence to try to pull other people who are out of their league. So I found that comment interesting. And then she also said she wanted a spiritual connection with somebody, as well as somebody who internally was a wholesome man, because obviously Martell is attractive, but internally he's got all these demons and all of these issues and everything else. And so then once again, people are still coming for Dr. Heavenly in terms of her still wanting Melody to get back with Martell. And she keeps doubling down and saying that, she could see them going back even after everything Melody just expressed of how bad things are with Martell, and and even people in the comments telling Heavenly to watch back the season because you would not have the same energy, and she still keeps bringing this up. I wish there was we should have just played a drinking game with how many times she had stated that she could see Mel and Martell being back together. But here's the thing, just the appearance of a power couple, for image purposes or whatever, or to sell a certain narrative to the public, it's not what it appears to people. If you're miserable behind the scenes, if you're still getting cheated on, if you're still getting played, if you're still getting disrespected and humiliated by this person, there is no, why would you want that? Melody tried. She gave Martell way more years in grace than most women would. She doesn't need to go back to this guy. So it's just, I just don't know what Heavenly's angle is here with this weird thing she keeps trying to invoke about them getting back together. And Mel basically said this would be the worst thing for her to do. She's like, how can she be the best mother if she stays in a toxic situation? That's not cool. She's like, people don't see the other side of it. She was the only person cooking. She was the only person doing her kids' hair. They don't see the side where you're so stressed in dealing with all of this stuff with, a crazy ex, that you're crying in the closet because you don't want your kids and stuff to see all of that. That it's a lot, that you're just trying to do the best that you can to make sure that your family is in the best position to succeed. And you have somebody like Martell that is trying at every, stretch of the word to try to make things awful for Mel. And so again, that's why, she herself, as well as her kids, are in therapy. She said, one thing she's not going to do is have this platform and have this, Oprah money, these Oprah checks coming in, and not make sure that her kids are able to be in therapy, be able to express themselves and how they're really feeling about the situation and everything else in the transition, from being in a two-parent household to now having parents in separate households, as well as a new sibling, as a product of their father's cheating. So she said that she wants her kids to be able to, say what they need to say to the therapist, as well as open up to her as well, and deal with their overall mental health and their well-being. And so then, as far as the 5 years question, Mel then promoted that, her lipstick line had just came out yesterday, with Posner, I believe the name of it is. So Posner Cosmetics, and that she has a lot of shades that came out. She had also reiterated that she is still going to be coming out with a skincare line. So I was worried, I was concerned about that, because there were some rumors that Martell was trying to take a portion of that business, or maybe she came up with a new formulation of a skin line to where Martell would have no say or no financial stake or anything to go after her, which smart on Melody for dissolving all of the businesses that were in their joint names. That way there was nothing legally, putting them two together business wise. And pretty much all of, Melody's business ventures post divorce have all been solo, have all been on her. And so Mel also promoted, that she also has her master class where she's teaching people about real estate and about flipping houses and all that stuff. And so she said she has 350 students thus far and counting that are mostly African American women. So she promoted that there's a new class that will start in January of 2022, and that if you go to the website and, register for this master class that starts in January of 2022, and you put in the promo code Heavenly, you will get 22% off, the new class. So for those of you who are interested in that. And so then Heavenly asked if Melody would ever be open to working with Martell on projects again. And Mel basically said, nope, she doesn't see it for him. She doesn't talk to him. She works with the people who she wants because she has specific things that she looks for when she does business with people. And, that is not somebody that is going to translate well in working with Martell. Like, she's been there, done that, doesn't want to deal with that again. And so then, Heavenly again was closing up the interview, basically saying, how beautiful she is, how she's a wonderful mother and wife, and that the next time that, Mel's in ATL, they need to get lunch and stuff. And, Heavenly keeps trying to, between hinting that she still wants Mel and Martell to get back together, or foresees that they could get back together one day, without watching all of the episodes and all of the reunion episodes this season. Also thinks that Mel secretly has a dude somewhere. And Mel keeps reiterating that she's not dating anybody, and that if she was dating somebody, she would just say it and just keep it private on who it was. And I kind of feel the same way because how much people let out what's going on in Huntsville. I feel like we would know by now if Mel was seeing somebody. Because I feel like that person would also regulate things with Martell, and Martell would leave Melody alone because she's actually messing with somebody who is not going to put up with Martell's nonsense. So I actually do believe Mel when she says that she's single, because Martell wouldn't dare try this if, Melody did have somebody else. So especially somebody else who is not going to put up with, the shenanigans that Martell currently is doing. Because essentially he could just show up at one of these kid drop-off events to make sure nothing crazy goes down. And Martell's not going to pipe up like that in front of somebody. So I do believe Mel when she does say she's not dating anybody. Because there's no way she is if Martell is acting this crazy. So there's that. But, then Heavenly was also asking her about if she was doing other hosting gigs, and, Melody was discussing, you must be talking about Behind Every Man. That was an inaugural show that came out during the pandemic. There was 12 episodes. She said she's not sure whether or not that is going to be renewed, and that she simply was the host of the show. She did not feature, her family, her situation or her ex on that show or whatever. And so, then Heavily, of course, was promoting her, socials and everything else. And then she asked finally if Melody had any intentions to move to ATL. And so Mel basically said she's bi-coastal. She's like, she can put a place, anywhere, everywhere. She lives in Huntsville. She can live in ATL. She can live in Cali, this and that. And so then also she had said that she got a new phone. She changed her phone number, and that Martell only has her track phone number. She said because she got an inkling that somebody was listening to her messages and listening to her calls, and how could they repeat verbatim something she had just said while she's talking to them. So that right there, put her on high alert. And so she has a brand new phone, and Martell only knows her track phone number. And she said currently right now they're filming for the next season. And so that's why, she said originally she was supposed to have this month her launch party for the new lipstick shades and everything else for that collaboration, as well as the skincare line. However, due to likely has to do with the filming schedule, and I'm sure that's probably impacted by COVID and by everything else that's going on, that they wanted Melody to reschedule her launch party for this lip care line as well as the skincare line in January instead, since they are doing the filming now for next season. And then Heavenly basically closed with, wanting Mel to say hi to Carlos King for her, and that he did a good job and that he was amazing and this and that. And that was the conclusion of the interview. I feel like this might even be longer than the actual interview was, but I just felt overall, I felt it was good. I felt Melody seemed like she was in good spirits. I do feel bad because it does seem low key that she is still very much stressed, that even with all of this stuff airing and, Martell's behavior and how toxic and how much worse he's gotten, that things still aren't letting up real time. And I just feel awful for her. And I just hope and pray that this stops soon, and that she can be, her and her kids can be healthy and toxic free environment. Because Martell needs to let this go. He needs to move on. Trying to pay her back every single day because you can't believe she finally left you. Like, it's not going anywhere. Mel's still not taking him back. And your side chick's out of order. She's completely losing her mind. Like, it's just too much. And then as far as the interview, like, I felt overall it was decent. I just wish that Heavenly watched all of the episodes, because I think there were other questions that I would have wanted her to ask, specifically pertaining to some of the things that went down at the reunion, and even some things that are going on now, over these past few days, with Martell copying Mel's photo shoot, just some other stuff that's going on currently that's even out of pocket. So that's what I was hoping. And then again, it just, I don't know. It was like Heavenly kept going back and forth on this getting back together thing. She kept wanting to hit this home. And I'm like, Heavenly, stop it. Like, we do not want this. We, the people, do not want Martell and Melody to get back together. Like, she put up with his cheating for so long. She kept thinking he was going to change, even had more children with this man. And still, none of it, worked. He still was very, brazen with his cheating. So it's like, what more can she do? And even now that they're divorced, he's still treating her like crap. Like, he can't even, muster the approach of co-parenting like a decent human being. He's still, out of pocket. So it's like, I just don't know this end game that Heavenly wants. And I don't know if she's projecting. I don't know if she is staying with the cheater. Like I said earlier in the video, like, I don't know what this push is. Because not everybody is the same. Not everybody is going to stay with the cheater. Like, that's just not how this goes. And especially on the level of things that Martell is doing, having a baby on Melody, like doing all this stuff, it's just too much. And I'm just glad that Mel got out of there. I'm glad that Mel and her kids are in therapy, but I just hope and pray that eventually this goes away with Martell. And it's only going to go away the second that Mel, moves on, or the second that Martell moves on with somebody that he feels is on the caliber of Melody, which still hasn't happened after all this time. So, because he's basically acting gutter like the baby mom that he has with his side chick. Like, that's basically what he's replicating and projecting onto Mel. The side chick obviously has nothing to gain. The money's gone. Melody's money is no longer accessible to them. So they're doing the most. And obviously she's still in a situationship. So she has nothing to show for this either. So they just want to do all this projecting and antagonizing of Mel and hoping that she'll give in and just, put up with this again. Oh, no. That's not happening. So Dr. Heavenly needs to let that go, because there's no way. No way at all. But overall, like I said, I thought it was decent. I felt that there were some better questions that could have been asked. And I just, honestly, my takeaway is I'm just going to keep praying for Melody, because things sound a lot worse than what we've seen on the show, which is very alarming to me. And that even kind of makes me feel a certain way about how hard Carlos King was going at certain points of the reunion for Martell. Now that we know, and I'm sure even certain people in production know, like, how out of pocket Martell truly is. That probably this is the best edit he's even getting with how nasty he's been, that it's a lot worse, actually. So that even has me very much concerned. And I just want, Melody, like I said earlier, to get a bodyguard. Not only have a secure camera and security system in her house, but to get a bodyguard, get some security, because this is insanity. And they need to escort her and her kids everywhere, because this is just not, it's just not the wave, man. It just really isn't. So those are all of my thoughts. I apologize that this is just as long, if not longer, than the actual interview that took place. it was just a lot to dissect. It was just a lot that was said, a lot of meat that was in that interview that I felt overall, for the most part, was fairly good and was a good look for Mel to do, to promote her song, to promote her business ventures, to promote all the stuff that she's got going on at the end of the day. And I'm just hoping that things can move forward, even though I know there's probably going to be some more shenanigans to happen even once this video is uploaded, like that there will probably be like another update or another post or something that Martell or the side chick does to gain attention, because I'm sure they have watched this interview and are going to come up with their own theories and their own thoughts and try to be messy as well. So can't wait to see what happens with that. But yeah, just let me know what your guys' thoughts are. If this is your first time viewing my channel, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for supporting. Welcome. If this is your second or third time back, thank you for coming back. Thank you again for supporting. I love interacting with each and every one of you. Happy holidays to everybody. I know it's just been a crazy holiday and everything else. There's just been so much stuff going on. And also, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, hit the notification bell so you guys can be notified the moment that new content is posted by me. And per usual, I hope everybody has an amazing day, and I will talk to you guys again for sure very, very soon.